My name is Father Mike Berry. I'm a priest of the Congregation of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary. And I come to you this morning with a little message hoping that it will, with God's grace, change your life. And early in my priesthood, I would always get the question, I was teaching high school at the time, is it a sin? Is it a sin? And I realized as soon as that question was being asked, after a while, not right away, but I realized after a while that once that question was asked, it was a sin. People considered it a sin because of really what they had done. What they had done was against the law of God, was against the commandments of God. All of that took place. And then another phrase I came across was, well, young people have to sow their wild oats. What's wild oats? Well, they can kind of be promiscuous, and the dictionary describes it as spreading their genes, and it was usually looked upon as a male objective, that the young men would have relationships with all sorts of women, as many women as they could, and again, there was no commitment other than the pure pleasure of the sexual experience. And now it's sort of for both sexes, both male and female. Females sometimes can even outdo males in their desire to just have different relationships all along. But go back to the concept of the wild oats. What is wild oats? Wild oats is a plant. It's a plant much like grass or, crabgrass or something of that sort. But it's a grass that the farmer is fearful of. He's fearful of it because if it comes into a crop of wheat or barley, it can destroy the whole crop. It can destroy the whole crop because it sort of takes control, takes over, and the crop, unless there's some type of an herb or some type of a spray that's used on the wild oats, the whole crop is lost. The whole crop is lost. So again, it should be indicative of what we sort of take for granted. And that's something else that we need to be aware of. Stuff that we take for granted that may be harmless in itself, but it is harmful. It is harmful. It destroys us eventually. It destroys us eventually. It's like the alcoholic who says, one drink won't really make me alcoholic. But yes, he's right, one drink won't. But the drink that follows after that, and after that, that will make him alcoholic. And the whole excuse that he has in his head, that one drink won't make me alcoholic, that predominates. And it's not just the one drink, or the other one we have so often. And these are sort of common phrases that it's in our culture, and we don't see them as harmful at all. And yet they do us tremendous harm. I've never been caught by the police, and I speed an awful lot. That's another lie that's there, the perpetuation of lies in our society, much more so right now than ever before. It's only a sin if I get caught. It's only wrong if I get caught. Never mind the fact, just recently with all the snow and everything else, I was driving at maybe 30, 35 miles an hour, and I was being passed by people 60 miles an hour. It's not good. Don't we care about other people? And the answer is no, we don't. It's about me, and me, rather than to be aware that it will be about you eventually. If you crash, if you skid, all of those things happen to you, and inevitably they will. Just because you beat the law of averages, the average will catch up on you eventually. And so it's like sowing your wild oats. It's a terrible thing in a way. There's no commitment. There is no love. There is no love. It's something, as Nike said, just do it. Just do it. And you see, even in the commercial world all the time, I'm fascinated so many times. I don't watch it too much anymore, but in game shows, you have won this much money. Do you want to go for, twice as much or 3 times as much? Yes, I do. And everybody claps and cheers. and they lose what they have. Okay, they lose what they have. So again, are you telling yourself lies? Do you live the lie? Are you the people of the lie? Okay, and yes, in many cases we do. So we need to take a step backward and say, is this beneficial to me? Is this what God wants from me? And say, I don't care what God wants. Yeah, that's what we say too. But yet, at the same time, what God wants for us is better than what we want for ourselves. So often I remember praying to God for this and for that, and then God never answered me. But he did, because I never got it. I never got what God wanted, what I wanted for God to give me. And yet God gave me much greater things, much, much greater things. And it's the whole commercial that we have, should have had a V8, should have had a V8. And again, to realize that should have let God do what God is doing. So it's very easy to get trapped into the world, one of the temptations, the world, the flesh, and the devil. Okay, and we sort of disregard the world, and the flesh and the devil we can identify with, but the world is just as destructive. It's destructive because it's given us things that the world wants to sort of capture us. We buy something that is not life-giving. It's not life-giving, and so often, I knew a priest one time that left, and he was going into carpentry. He had absolutely no experience in carpentry at all, but it was in his head. It was in his head, and he decided to buy this saw that whirls around. And he bought the saw. He never used it. It's still in his garage. So we think, sometimes we have stinking thinking. We think that, this is the worst pain I ever had. And this is the stinking thinking puts us off the mark. What God has for us is for our health, and for our heart. The whole experience of life with Christ. There is no substitute. There is no substitute for life with Christ. What the life with Christ brings is love, joy, peace, gentleness, and so forth. And what the world brings is just the opposite. Consternation, division, disunity, sinfulness, all of those things. We weigh ourselves down thinking that we're right, rather than believing what God has given to us. Believing is better than so many times just stinking thinking, because we know what's best for us, and God knows what's better for us. And so again, what's best for us is not according to God's design. God's design is, he wants us to be with him for all eternity, and we haven't here a lasting world. We haven't here, the world is not going to last, but what God has for us will last, and it's up to us to see, either to be convicted of that, and it's a conviction. So many times we think, well, we'll do this is the right thing to do, but are we convicted of it? And the answer is no, we're not, because we've thought it ourselves, but God is absent for it. The 3 times, I think, 3 Psalms in the Old Testament, not the New, but the Old Testament. The fool says in his heart, there is no God. Psalm 14, Psalm 53. The fool says in his heart, there is no God. And many people are driven that way. I hear it said often, I'm a good person. I don't kill anyone, and they sort of leave it at that. But all the other things that make a good person, are you with the Lord or not? And the answer is, well, I don't believe in that stuff. And that makes everything right. It's totally wrong. God wants you to be with you. Behold, I am with you all days, even to the end of the world. So stop and think, especially what God has for you is much greater. But we have been won over by a world that is destructive. We have been won over by people. Look at the suicide rate is up. Never before in our history has it been that high. Why? Because people, come to a crossroads in life, and they don't want to go on the way they're going on anymore. They don't want to go on like that anymore. They want to end it all, rather than turn to the Lord. Come back to me with all your love. All you who labor and find life burdensome, I will refresh you. I will give you life again, life in abundance. That's what God promises. Does God lie? No. Try it. Try it, and you will have life in abundance. I thank you, and may God bless you.